All right. We have quite a few news items, and we're going to probably have to go through the other ones really quickly. This one, I think, deserves a little bit more discussion. Recently, well, let's start this way. This week, Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed Unity to tepid fanfare in the PC community for a couple of reasons, right? And one of the reasons is, well, one of the reasons people were really excited about it was because of how good it looked. For example, this screenshot is pretty awesome. Now, it's a screenshot, so you can't trust it 100%, but I will tell you that it's at least fairly representative of what happens in the
last
game.
night. So,
especially if you're sitting still and not moving, you don't have to worry about aliasing or any kind of shimmering or anything like that in the game. It looks really, really good. Now, the problem that has occurred
is that PC users want their cake and eat it too.
They do, I think.
Yeah.
So the game runs at low frame rates, even with high-end hardware.
Pretty low frame rates.
And here's what we're talking about. So on our test bed, a Core i7 3960, it's a 6-core Sandy Bridge E part, 16 gigs of memory, and a single GeForce GTX 980 running at 1080p on the ultra-high preset, so the highest visual quality, but 1920 by 1080.
Yep.
We're seeing frame rates from 37 to 48 frames per second.
It's pretty low for 1080p.
It is. Using the low preset at the same resolution, where we only see we see it go up to about 65 to 85. So it goes up.
Yeah.
But you're obviously losing a lot of image quality.
Yeah.
Benefits there. So, and then again, this isn't even getting into the idea that the fact that AMD is probably 15 to 20% slower than NVIDIA right now, and that it's a GameWorks title and all that other debate.
Right.
Not even really part of this discussion because
at this point it's so dang slow.
Right. Well, the accusations have been from a lot of people in the community that either Ubisoft did it on purpose, which actually makes no sense, or they did it kind of out of neglect, I wrote in the story, right?
Okay.
Where they were like, we don't really care if the code's efficient. We're just going to make it look pretty.
Yeah.
Which also just doesn't kind of make sense, knowing that the goal of the company is to sell as many copies of the game as possible. Also note that this is the same company that we had that discussion with before, where that anonymous developer of the game wrote into the other podcast and said, hey, we actually can't get above 1600 by 900 on the consoles because of the visual quality stuff we're doing and the CPU bottlenecks and the GPU bottlenecks in the system. And we wanted to make a really good looking game, and we didn't want to sacrifice that for the sake of resolution or whatever. And at the time we talked about that as being, the consoles have hit a wall. Well, as it turns out, that is also affecting us on the PC gaming side. So I actually sent over some questions, which I would encourage you guys to go to the website. If you are watching us live, we literally just published it right before the podcast went live, where I asked him a question
Who's
to
him?
the point
Who are you
of
asking?
It is a developer at Ubisoft.
Oh, sweet.
It is like this is an official comment, right? So it's
okay.
It's all official statements. It's not anonymous. I just didn't feel the need to put his name out there and
Right.
whatever. I asked what in the game engine was causing these compute resources to be so high. Are there specific effects or design goals in the artist that require this horsepower to run at these speeds? And they basically were saying that it's a giant open world game, open world city built to scale. Paris requires significant details. The game happens in Paris, in case you didn't know that. There are tens of thousands of objects are visible on screen, casting and receiving shadows. Paris is incredibly detailed. For example, Notre Dame itself is millions of triangles. The entire game world has global illumination and local reflections. There are realistic high dynamic range lighting, and we temporarily stabilized anti-aliasing.
Okay.
Right. So there's some of the reasons why is the engine so hard on GPU hardware. But I asked other questions like, was there a debate internally about downscaling those effects to allow for lower end system requirements?
Right.
And they said they talked about it a lot, but our position always came back to us ensuring that Assassin's Creed Unity is a next-gen only game with breakthrough graphics. With this vision, we did not degrade the visual quality of the game. On PC, we have several options for low scaling, like disabling AA, decreasing resolution.
Sure.
And we have low options for texture quality, environment quality, and shadows. So they're basically taking a stance that we wanted the game to look a very specific way.
Yeah.
And we were not willing to compromise the look in order to make sure minimum and recommended system requirements.
I mean, since there is the option to turn that stuff down, I mean, it seems reasonable.
But again, turning them all the way down at 1080p
Only gives
on a
you,
980
like,
was
yeah.
giving me 65 to 85 frames per
Yeah.
second.
You'd
So
think you would get more out
there
of it.
are going to be systems that are not going to be able to play the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Minimum requirement.
Like I'm on a 680. It probably wouldn't look that great.
No,
on
the
it.
recommended the recommended says 680. I forget what the minimum was.
I
No,
can
I think the
try. I
minimum
can
was
try it at
680.
home.
Minimum was 680. Okay,
So I was
which
just
is a 770.
right before the
Yeah.
podcast. I was testing with the 770, and I ended up running it at 1600 by 900, which is what the consoles run at.
Yep.
And medium quality settings, and it was still a good-looking game. I couldn't really knock the visuals,
Right.
and I was getting about 50 to 60 frames per second pretty constantly. out of
Okay.
that.
So that's not bad.
So you're not necessarily running at every pixel that your monitor can possibly do, but if it
Yeah.
still looks like a good game in the end, I don't really think it matters a whole lot.
Yeah, like my 680 and my 30-inch. I'm not going to have that much luck
Right.
Yeah.
at the house.
I asked them if they were they targeting future GPUs? Were they targeting multi-GPU? And
Yeah.
they said, no, we were targeting current generation hardware. And then I did ask one, only got a little bit of time with them. Do you envision updates to the game or to future GPU drivers that would noticeably improve performance on current generation hardware?
Right.
And he says the development team is continuing to work on optimization post-launch through software updates. You'll hear more details shortly.
That sounded kind of PR-ish at the end there, but
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not going to say, yeah, we promise we're going to get you 20% more frames.
yeah.
But so
I mean, it's almost like Crisis, right? Like Crisis was always
Well, the
really
original,
hard
yeah.
and
Let's
stuff.
go back 6 years.
Crisis
When
3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a system that was pretty high end at the time. Had dual 8800 GTXs in there. I was like, this is going to handle it no problem. I put it on ultra, and it was a slideshow at 15 to 17 frames per second.
Oh, was this the original Crisis?
The original
Yeah.
Crisis.
Yeah, I remember being really defeated with like a brand new water cooled setup that I'd set up and like specifically not fired up Crisis until I was done with that build, just because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like overclock the crap out of all this stuff and get everything way overclocked and then
gonna
fire
roll
Crisis.
it.
I was so disappointed.
I'm curious, Josh. It will be hard to know specifically, but at that time, it was a long time ago. Do you remember what the reaction was?
Oh yeah,
people
everyone
were
remembers what the
pissed.
reaction was.
Yeah, people were pissed.
Will it run Crisis? It's still something people
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
Right, but they don't say it. But they don't say it today in a negative.
That's because
Well.
a new generation of video cards came out after that actually started running it
pretty decently.
acceptably.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Now there's argument to be had that when by the time the whatever comes after 980 comes out and the 390X from AMD are out, I probably won't want to play Assassin's Creed Unity.
You mean
So
because
why do I
it's-
care?
Because it's old enough.
Because it's old,
Okay.
right? So why do I care if future GPUs can run it better?
Well, I mean,
That's a fair argument.
you know, when the next generation came out that Crisis played better at, people were still playing Crisis.
Hey, let me two words for you, Ryan. Mm-hmm. 2 words. Steam sale.
Yeah.
Okay,
Steam
that's true.
sale.
That's true. So
Hey, you never played Unity because it was $60? Yeah, I didn't buy it then.
And my PC
Oh,
couldn't
it's
run it.
it's on sale
Yeah,
for
I didn't-
$12.
I didn't buy it then because
and
my
I've
PC
got a
couldn't
new
run it.
video card.
true.
Speaking of Steam,
Don't change the subject.
no, not this is specifically for this game.
Okay.
So you tried downloading this game on whatever the name of the Ubisoft little server thing is.
You play.
How fast was that download?
Well, the first time I downloaded it was like 50 megs per second. This is totally unrelated to what we're talking about. What are you doing?
It's the game. We're talking about
It's
the game.
not the game. That's Uplay versus Steam.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Anyway, I mean, Steam downloaded twice as fast at least, even at the peak. I
Yeah.
downloaded Steam at 102 megabytes per second. We have a little bit of an advantage here.
Yeah, we do.
I think most people wouldn't be bottlenecked by a 5
Right.
megabyte per second internet connection. So, I did use the analogy here. Basically, I wrote a short little editorial, kind of like questioning why people were getting mad about this.
Yeah.
I understand it, but I don't understand the
Why there's that much rage?
viral, not viral, the vile hate.
Virulent.
Thank you,
Or
hatred
virulent,
towards
yeah.
it, right?
It might just
Because
be people.
Crisis 3, when Crisis 3 launched last March, I looked this up. Kotaku had a story where 1920 by 1200, with the highest end card at the time was a GTX 680. At high settings, you got 50 frames per second, and at very high settings, you got 37 frames per second.
Yeah.
It's a very similar kind of result, right? And that's why we still use Crisis 3 as a benchmark today. And it's still like the toughest game on our graphics cards today.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be, but Crisis 3
This will be the new one.
Can I ask you a quick question,
You
Ryan?
may. Yes.
Did you see any show-stopping visual artifacts or glitches? I mean, we've seen the things about, the people have just the eyeballs and
Scary
the mouth. And, Did you see anything like that?
No, I didn't. I didn't see. So all I have played it on thus far is a GTX 980 and a GTX 770 we were playing it on today, and we didn't see any of that. Now, obviously, that's happening to people. I understand that, and that's creepy and disappointing at the same time, because those caricatures are awful, just weird looking. But no, I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, and so I think part of it is people love to grasp on one. Ubisoft has a bad reputation because they said things like, a more cinematic experience. Mm-hmm. You've got Uplay, which, albeit it's one of the thinner clients, but say you buy something on Steam, you then have to load up Uplay and play it through Uplay. If you just load up Uplay and try to play your game, it doesn't show up. You have to start Steam and then Uplay. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of bad karma going against Ubisoft, and they're not handling it very well. And so we're getting so much backlash on this what is essentially a cutting edge game. If you look at the screenshots,
It's awesome.
If you look at the play,
really is.
the amount of art assets and the man hours that is spent to create these art assets, to get these high resolution textures in there, to get this essentially a living, breathing world that you can wander around in and just wander around and look at crap.
It's really cool. I mean, most of my game stream yesterday was me like running around the city, climbing up things, looking, getting down, climbing up things, and looking.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, they are really, really, really cutting edge. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why people, I mean, they just want to see the worst in it instead of just saying, you know what?
Well,
don't like what Ubisoft does. I don't like some of their philosophies, but let's see this work that they did.
I mean, I understand if you're a gamer that has a GTX 760 or something and you wanted to play this game and you almost can't or whatever, but and I understand that there's a happy medium that we could find, but people that complain about, it's just this unoptimized piece of crap and they don't know, like, first of all, you have no idea if it's an optimized game. You have no idea because you're not a programmer. 99.9% of the people watching this, you're not a programmer. You don't know shit about game development.
Yeah.
And even if you are, you don't know their code base.
That's true, right? I don't think you think Ubisoft didn't want to release a game on consoles that reviewers slammed for frame rate issues, right? They don't want to have this debate about frame rates on the PC, right? But they made a decision about visual style that they didn't want to compromise on.
I think I think it was some of their statements about that stuff that turned on the hate. And then as soon as something like
what?
The whole like games look weird at 60 FPS and blah blah blah.
Yeah, okay,
that
so they were
right?
trying to make excuses for
yes.
it.
So when you start trying to do that, then you get people that are just kind of turning on them, and then they're just waiting
very
for the
much what
next
happened.
thing to come out, the next slightly negative thing.
So-
they latch on it, and then they just make a big deal.
The paragraph I'll read here of this editorial is that PC gamers seem to have like a double standard for this stuff, right? On one hand, we hate it when PC ports or games that are developed in with consoles in mind don't take advantage of PC hardware.
Yep.
Like all of the Call of Duty games up until this most recent one on any generation, like on any high-end hardware would run at like 150, 200 frames per second.
Yeah.
Clearly there's things the developer could do to make the game look better or be cooler and take advantage of that extra horsepower. Now, Unity and Crysis 3 are the opposite. They really, really tax current CPU and GPU hardware, paving the way forward for future GPUs. If you're NVIDIA or AMD, you should want this. Just like those GPU guys wanted 4K monitors
Yeah.
to make a reason for people to buy 980s, to make a reason for people to buy 290Xs. You should want this if you're AMD. So, I don't know. Go read that editorial. I just posted it up. I'm expecting a ton of comments on it.
There may be one or two already.
There may be.
Yeah,
good,
they're probably
good,
there
good. I'm kind of curious. Like, I just want to know. I don't know. Why? Why are you so mad all the time? Why did
someone is wrong on the
someone
internet.
is wrong?
Why are you internet people negative?
All right, let's move on from this. Jeremy,